All right, Yevamos Daf Yud Zayin 1-7, the final daf in the first parak of Yevamos, parak Chamesh Nashim. So we left off yesterday. Ravasi had a comment where he said that anyone who marries a woman or even a man in one of the cities where there are the 10 lost tribes, we need to be suspect that the marriage is valid. He says there's just too many variables and we need to be very careful. So we have to assume that there's the marriage is valid so that we don't create more mamzerim. How do we get here? Because if you remember yesterday, there was this whole, the end of the Beis Shammai Beis Hillel debate was we said that there was a story where Dosim and Hyrcanus apparently, paskin according to Beis Shammai. So a whole task force, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Yeshua went to go visit his house. And ultimately, Rabbi Dosa said, "Trust me, I know that Beis Hillel is correct because I heard it from from one of Chaggai's prophecies. One of the things he said was, that basically he said three things, and because of that prophecy, one of the other things that the prophecy said was this idea that people who live in Tarmod, and I'm forgetting the name of the other city, they are eligible to marry into the Jewish people." So that kind of spiraled this whole conversation about different cities where people of illegitimate lineage live, and what the status is. So that's going to be the first, let's say, quarter of today's daf. We're to finish off the parak. Shmuel mentions that there's really no concern about this nowadays. Why? Because first of all, it's only an issue regarding non-Jewish women. If it's a non-Jewish man and a Jewish woman, then if it's a Jewish man and a non-Jewish woman, the kid is not Jewish anyway, so the kedushin is invalid. And what would the other thing be if there was a Jewish woman and a non-Jewish man? But we have a teaching that says that in that generation of the exiled tribes, none of the women were able to give birth. That seems to be a historical fact according to the Gemara, and as a result, we don't have to worry. And that's why where Ravasi was saying that we have to be concerned about kedushin always being valid doesn't really apply. So that's the story with that. The parak ends off just talking about some other cities that have somewhat tainted lineage. We talk about Tarmod, which they said that it would be a great day once that city is destroyed because it's just creating a lot of lineage, a lot of problematic children in that coming from Tarmod. Harpania is another place. They said that it's a harsh, a kol ponenbo. Everyone faces to it. Anyone who doesn't really fit in would kind of head there. If I were to create a dating app for those who didn't fit in the other dating apps, I'd probably call it Harpania. You heard it here first. And we also talk about this. There's a whole progression where it's Sheol is that's hell, so to speak. So that's bad, but then even worse is as you go even worse, it's Tarmod, Misha, and Arpania. Why? Because because they say if you go to Gehenna, there's still a way that you can come out clean, but if you're a mamzer, you're tainted forever. So good things, but on the positive side, it doesn't seem to be an issue nowadays anymore, based on what Shmuel said, that we don't have to worry about that. So that concludes Hadron Alech Perak Chamesh Esrei Nashim. Now we move into the concepts of Zika. I'll say what it is in a minute. But the first Mishnah in the second parak explains one of the 15 ervas that we talked about in the first parak, which was this idea of Eishis Ach Shelo Ba Le'olamo, which pretty much means as follows. Ready? See if you can follow. So 3 brothers, Reuven and Shimon. Let's say Reuven dies, and now Shimon does Yibum on Reuven's wife. Shimon also has another wife, so now Shimon has 2 wives. Okay. Then after Shimon does Yibum, Levi is born. So Levi and Reuven would never live together, but now Levi and Shimon are brothers. Now Shimon dies. Okay, so now we have Reuven's wife, we have Shimon's wife, Now, which of those are supposed to marry Levi? The answer is neither of them. Why? Because Reuven's wife does not need to marry Levi because she is an Eishes Ach Shelo Bale Alamo. Reuven and Levi never interacted. Shimon's wife and Levi also don't do Yibum. Why? Because she is the tzara, she's the co-wife of an Eishes Ach Shelo Bale Alamo. So this is an example where both the woman and her co-wife are exempt from Yibum. So that's what the Mishnah outlines here. The Gemara opens up first of all by explaining that this teaches us, well, first of all, the source of Eishes Ach Shelo Bale Alamo. There are two options. One of them is that you can learn it from the pasuk that says Ki Yeshvu Achim Yachdav, which means Yeshvu, they have to have been yeshiva together, not learning together in yeshiva, but they have to have been alive at the same time. And then Yachdav also teaches us they have to be both eligible to the same inheritance, meaning they have to be paternal brothers. That's what Rav Yehuda says in Rav. Rabbah says something a little bit differently. He says it's a Gzer Shava because it's both using the word, how do we know paternal brothers are eligible in this? Because it says Achim by the Yaakov's children, and then it says Achim here by Yibam, and that teaches us that it has to be paternal. Why do I need both? The Gemara reconciles the two and explains why you need both the Gzer Shava and you need the pasuk of Yachdav. So that's the story with that. And then Rav Huna has a pretty big statement. He says this Mishnah teaches us. I should backtrack, but Rav Huna says that if an isha shemeres yibam, meaning let's say a man is technically eligible to yibam on a woman, and then the woman passes away, a man is then technically eligible to marry her mother, which teaches us that there is ein zika. What does zika mean? It means that there's a bond between a man and his yivama, or his zikuka, same concept, which is similar to marriage. Meaning, even though you haven't yet done ibam, you could still sort of assume that the same rules of marriage apply. That's the concept of yesh zika. So Rav Huna is saying, based on this din, it seems to be there's no zika because a man is able to marry a woman's mother, as opposed to if a man gets married to a woman and she dies, he can never marry her mother, even if the woman, the wife is no longer around, he still can't. That teaches us that there's ein zika. Then we have another concept by Rabbi Yehuda who says shomeres yibam she'mesa asura be'ima. You can't marry the mother-in-law, which seems to imply that Rabbi Yehuda holds yesh zika. So tomorrow's daf, we're going to drill into that a little bit and try to understand their opinions a bit more. This concludes Yevamos daf Yud Zayin. Have a great day.